Traditional companies of the 60s, electromechanical manufacturers of Gottlieb, Bally, Williams, Chicago Coin, and even Midway tried to make a few pinballs. But then at the end of the 60s, along come these upstart companies thinking they can do better amusement. So there's Nutting, both Nutting Associates and Nutting Industries, that's a whole nother story. Eventually air hockey comes along, and one of the companies that really kind of shakes up the industry in their way, kind of competing more against Chicago Coin and Williams to some extent, Allied Leisure. And as they're having success with their quiz games and their combat games and stuff, they had a pinball idea. Oh, we're going to be different in pinball. We're going to do this thing. We know people like shaking the machine, so we're going to make it so that the game facilitates shaking the machine. Allied Leisure Shaker Ball on Sea Hunt in Spooksville. And to flip the flippers, you had to push the thumb buttons. And I'll make this relevant, so stick with me here. And that was terrible idea, the shaker ball. And then, while we're reacting to all that was like 1972, 73, and then along comes Atari with Pong, and now video games, instead of being just one weird one, which was that computer space, now we have video games are a genre, and they're starting to look like they're going to take over the whole business, if it weren't for air hockey also challenging everything. But Atari was really setting the pace. Just when everybody else, including Allied Leisure and Williams and Chicago Coin, they're making paddle and ball games because there's enough of a market, and they can make them in Chicago, so they can do it the way we operators want them to be done.
Yes.
Well, you take all these factors, that pinball is still hot, and Atari is hot, and Atari wants to innovate and get ahead of everybody. Like even in the video games, they had the first rifle video game where the rifle knew what it was and Quack, and they knew what the rifle was pointed at using a different technology than before. And they did some early drivers, like that Night Driver. It was just the
Track 10.
Track 10, yeah. I operated the Key Games equivalent, Formula K.
Yep.
So you could see it coming. Atari was going to do pinball someday. Here's the news. I went to a focus group conducted by Atari for operators to talk about what Atari was going to do in pinball. This is like 76.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were there. It might be a little early in your career at Atari, but Carol Cantor was running the thing, and I don't remember the names.
I remember her focus groups. I started at Atari in 1974.
Oh, okay. So,
Andy Caps had the Pong game that was at a bar and quit working in late afternoon, and they went out to fix it, and they opened up the coin door, and quarters full out the door. The cabinet is full from the floor all the way past the edge of the coin door. So
yeah,
it seemed like it was going to be a hit.
Yeah, but and you have to remember that in the industry, every few years there's a story of the cash box overflowed, but this time it probably really did happen. Some of those other stories, I don't know.
It definitely really did happen.
Okay, so here I am in this focus group with some other operators. There's about a dozen of us seated around a conference table and a bunch of Atari people. And the main thing we seem to be wanting to tell Atari is, don't innovate too much. Don't do what Allied Leisure did. Please give us regular slope of the playfield, regular flipper buttons, regular flipper positioning. We want the solid state to be better maintenance.
They didn't listen to you.
Yeah, they didn't. Well, and as we found out later, when Nolan Bushnell finally gave his banquet speech at Expo, their consideration was they knew that manufacturing in California, the game was going to have to cost more. So how could they justify to the operators that it ought to cost more? And their idea was, let's make it so wide that you're going to hurt these muscles in here if you play it for an hour, because It's just not ergonomically correct. And I know you've been big on ergonomics and having the flippers be the same place at the bottom.
People should get at least that break, you know, it's a familiarity that you learn and you know, I think you expect it, you know, you gotta expect it and ask people to play your game with some kind of weirdness at the very control and the only control that you have over the game. So I just thought they needed to be where they were.
Yeah.
Should I continue?
Well, what was your insider at Atari view of what was going on at that time?
We can get to that. Here we go. Are you finished?
I'm finished.
Okay. All right, I walk into Atari in 1974. I'm broke. I'm trying to make money playing in bands, and it's like I'm feeling guilty because my wife is working, and I just thought, I have to get a real job. So I walked into Atari, and it was at, what's the name of that town? Los Gatos, California. A big building, and it was like, I was employee number 50. They had all these, some of these things I'm going to say, I don't know. I'll try to keep it clean. They had all these beautiful ladies everywhere, beautiful young ladies doing things almost like, wow, you're pretty, you're hired, you know, like that. And they were playing stereo music everywhere in the building, even in the, you know, in the foyer where you meet people, where the, you know, the receptionist is. And I got an interview, and I got the job because I had experience in electronics and electrical stuff that I did in the Coast Guard. I went to a bunch of schools and learned these things. And so they hired me as an electromechanical technician for $4.50 an hour, I remember. Okay, I walk in, and it's like, okay, here's what you got to do. I designed a big test fixture, a big tall thing, orange it was, and it played all the games with programmable plugs. I had help from other people because I didn't know what all the inputs are. I didn't know a video game board. It's got an edge connector with just about always the same things laid out, you know. What I mean by things is voltage, switches, all those lines were there. So that's what I did, and then I did a burn-in oven for them. It was a while after that Gene Lipkin walked up to me and he goes, "How would you like to be in the pinball division?" And I go, "What pinball division?" He goes, "Ours, right here." And so I said, "Okay, sure." I liked to play pinball when I was a kid. And it's like, you know, I played pinball all the way through. I used to go to arcades, but, you know, I grew up in a bowling alley while my parents bowled, and I got $1 and I could play. And games were, I think they were like 10 cents each, 3 for a quarter, 3 games. And I tried to get good, you know, and win some games and whatever. But I did love pinball. And anyway, at Atari, in this new division, they said, "We want you to build the play fields when they're designed." Okay, fine. So a couple of months later, after this guy named Bob Jonasy came in, I started building up his whitewoods, and I learned about how to assemble a pinball machine. Okay, meanwhile, in Nolan Bushnell's office, and I swear, I think they were, "Far out, man. Let's make the back glass just be nothing but a back glass, a pretty picture, light it up. And we'll have the displays down here where no one can ever see them except the player. And we're going to use rotary solenoids." Rotary solenoids aren't really even rotary. They're like a disc with a rod like this, and the disc rolls little balls on inclined planes. So as it pulls in, it twists this thing. And it was used for channel changers on radios on ships and large boats, where you had multiple decks and you wanted to tune the radio. It would, you know, it would also, you know, change the channel on the upper decks.
Yeah,
They were never
broadcasting for remotes also, that
Yes.
you could change your thing here would match over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, they were never made to be operated like they were, and they were, they made, you know, solenoids. And me, I'm kind of naive, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe that'll work. But they were pretty terrible. Anyway, I really, you know, I couldn't believe that that's what we were going to do, but I had to do it, so I built up the game. And it was Atarians, and there was 5 holes across the top, And really, we need that slide.
Which one?
Please. Now, that's Airborne Avenger. We're close.
With the Atarians?
Atarians, there's a listing there for the thing.
So you won't do it on the mic.
What happens when you hit it?
It doesn't make a sound through the
I
mic.
got it. Okay, okay. All right, so here's the Atarians. It's beautiful to look at. Atari, okay, it's just like the same thing at Andy Capp's. You know, the money was rolling in. It's because they didn't know about collecting the money. You got to go visit the game and get the money out now and then. They didn't even
Once a
think about
week.
that. They just let it, fill up and go, yeah. It was like a crazy place. Atari was a crazy place to work because every Friday at the corner of the table where all these ladies were there fixing PC boards, hashish brownies. And everyone in the company ate them. And my boss, he wore a coat and tie and everything. Everyone is messed up, okay? Everyone. And they didn't care. And it wasn't just they didn't care. I mean, Friday afternoon was out on the loading dock with Red Mountain wine. Everyone had different flavors of weed, cocaine off the glasses of pinball machines. This was the heritage, and I don't know. It was an interesting world, I'll tell you.
Team building exercises.
There were some days I built some burn-in ovens, and then these are really high current things. They have to power like 50 boards at once. They used I designed them along with a couple of other manufacturing engineers. Bus bar, big old bus bar to conduct all this current to the boards. And after I ate a brownie, I don't know if I want to go in there again, It was a plywood box, a big plywood box, and that was their burn-in oven. So burn in, burn the box, burn everything. Finally, somebody came in and they go, if you don't fix this, you're going to get in trouble from OSHA. And so they bought a real vault thing with, halon or whatever to put out the fire if there was one. Okay, so this is actually how Atari is. And I know Nolan Bushnell and a few other guys are in there. Yeah, it's this wide and a white cabinet. Operators are going to love white cabinets. They get dirty. They look like hell in a short time. I mean, it was a dumb thing to do, but there were some amazingly talented people there, mostly the artists. George Opperman was incredible. When you look at this brochure right here, he designed that whole brochure.
Yeah,
everything he did, I mean, point of purchase. He did all the artwork for everything, and it was just amazing that, he was a great guy. He died pretty young too.
And when you go to Steve Engel's booth over in the vendor hall and you look through the flyers, those Atari flyers, they all have that Atari look.
Yep,
that was Opperman.
Graphic art.
Really had the corporate look. It's one of the greatest examples of uniform corporate graphics that right away it's Atari.
Also, so they built the Atarians, and it was a horrible thing. It was like nobody on the line knew how to build pinball machines. It was just 2 tracks where they pushed the board along, and some people added parts, and then the wiring and whatever. And while working there, after a few months, Atarians was being built and sent out. They finally got like 100 to send down to C.A. Robinson in Los Angeles, California. And they wanted myself and an electronics guy named Dan Corona to go down there and make sure everything went good for a distributor show that was going to happen Saturday morning. And we went down there, and we got there Friday pretty early, and we started going through games, and horrible things happened. Like the balls would not kick out from the drain to the actual ball shooter groove. I didn't know what to do at first, but then I thought, I got to fix this. So I cut up 2x4s with a saber saw and made a new ramp so that the ball had to get up and over and then roll down, have a little gravity to roll to the ball shooter. Okay, all of them needed that. We ended up opening 25 boxes to get 12 machines out because the problems were incredible. So many electronic problems, so many mechanical problems. It took us 24 hours to get 12 of them working and into their showroom. And we documented everything. I had everything mechanical that was wrong with the game, and Dan wrote up everything electronic that was wrong with the game. And we brought back, this is just a sample of how things were at Atari in those days. I came back, my boss was a guy named Jeff Harrop. He was from England, and he was kind of, I don't know, superior. And he's like, we show him this list, and he goes, "You don't show that to anyone here." Wow. What a shock. And he's our boss, and he's telling us no one else can know about all the problems that were on Atarians. So Dan and I walked away from that little meeting, and we talked amongst ourselves, and we said, this is not right. It's not right. So we decided to talk to Nolan about it, and we told him everything, the whole thing.
Go straight to the top.
4 days later, Jeff Harrop was fired, and good riddance, Jeff. Anyway, we began fixing everything on the thing. That's sort of a side story. What my seminar is really about is designing narrow bodies versus wide body pinball machines. My first one was Airborne Avenger. I think I'm probably the guy that made the most wide bodies. It might be somebody that made. I made 4, and I don't know that anybody else did. They didn't get the opportunity. They kind of died out at Williams after a short time.
Yeah, if someone can check Krinsky at Gottlieb for wide body, ultra wides.
Yeah. Anyway,
that might be the only other one.
That's what this is about. But the history of Atari has to be spoken too. It's like, could we have the next slide of? What is this?
Time 2000. Yeah.
That's Atarians again.
Oh.
Notice the scissor flippers. I don't know. It's like, sometimes I think Gottlieb hates me as a player. There's just too much drain area, too many square inches of ways for the ball to leave the play field. Used to bug me, but I realized that the games were different. Okay, this is the prize right here. Time 2000. This is possibly the worst pinball machine ever made.
Other than the art.
And this was done by the same guy who made a 12-pound drop target for Superman and was terminated shortly after. Okay, 12 pounds for a 5-bank. It was dopey. Okay, this game, Time 2000, we have that back up again. You got anything on the inside there? Isn't there more than one picture?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's good, thank you. Okay, this game they figured, I don't know what we're thinking, but I think we should have a set of flippers over here that go like this, and one over here that go like that, one set. And then the main feature was a captured thumper bumper, and it had rubber all around it, and the ball stayed in there too long, and they even destroyed that by changing all the rubber angles, and it would go in and bing, bang, bang, be gone, and be gone. Okay, there was no good way to play this game, no comfortable way to play it. They tried everything too. And Eugene and I were laughing because from the moment we first saw it, we thought, this is a train wreck with an F in front of it. And it was just, a terrible thing to look at and play. So they tried, okay, let's flip both of these flippers, and both of those flippers, left over here on the left button, right over here on the right button. And that didn't work because the ball would come over here and go to your... I don't know. It was just a mess. You could not flip it. And then they tried, okay, now we're going to set both flippers over here and both flippers over there. And that was worse. There was no interaction. There was no play. There was nothing you could do about saving or, I can't think of the word. What is it? Passing the ball from one flipper to another. It just, nothing worked. It was a terrible piece of garbage with beautiful artwork. George Opperman again, great artwork. So can we have the next slide, next game? Okay, after watching these guys make that game, I made one more. That's way past. That's later. Try Airborne Avenger.
Go straight to Airborne Avenger. If you can.
All right, I do want to thank...
while we're on that interim here, all the other manufacturers were so scared of Atari because Atari was like the leader in video games. So when they saw what Atari was doing in pinball, they say, we have to make ultra wides also.
Yep.
Which leads to all those disastrous games that we talked about, the Bally Paragon and Future Spa. And you saw a
Thank you.
brief flash of Stellar Wars. We'll get
Can we have
to
the
that.
next slide, please? Okay, well, that's not much good either. That's better. Playfield's a little small. There we go. This is my first game. It was done by a kid who didn't know shit. There's a hole you can't really shoot at. I mean, I tried to make a fun game out of it, but the thing that I did was it made the games much easier and much more normal. It was to close up the flippers and the slingshots and the lanes. Have more lanes. At least then you could pass and play a normal game of pinball. And there were, and relaxed. No scissors flippers with, extra cubic miles of drain area. And I don't know. I worked on it. I think I did 2 Whitewoods, and it had rotary solenoids, and they were horrible to work with. And it's like, they liked the game. It did okay. It was pretty. I don't know how it even survived. I mean, with the rotary solenoids, I just don't know. Anyway, while we were talking about this, I begged Nolan and everyone else, could we please use normal pinball components that operators know, that actually work, that have, a long service life.
Thank you.
And jet bumpers, and just get rid of the rotary solenoids because they're crap. And they finally said yes. And I go, let's go to an arcade and look at all the pinballs. Look at Atari. Nothing on the back glass but a pretty picture. That's all. And it's like, we got to have scoring back there just like everybody else. That's where they go. And so they said yes. So I started, there was a contest between Gary Slater and I, and we won the contest. The game was originally tested as a Whitewood as Rockstar. I think that was what it was. I'm not sure, though. Superman, I don't know.
Yeah, I think.
It was Rockstar. Anyway.
But by the way, notice the
What's
score
that?
displays down here on the older games.
Yeah.
So that's what he's contrasting
That's
to.
what I'm talking
Atari
about.
did first.
So they let me do that, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. And I ended up making 4 Whitewoods trying to refine Superman into a game. And I did, I got my chops finally. It took me a while, to make the ball flow nice, make the game play like a normal pinball machine, even though it was miles wide. And I'm going to say this about them. Making wide bodies is like, I don't know, it's much harder than making a narrow body game. It's just hard. First of all, when you're talking about a wide body, the ball, if you don't have everything if you're just taking the same amount of components and stuffing them on there, wow, the playfield looks a little sparse. Yeah, it totally did. And so what you'd end up with is excursions. That's how I call them, where the ball goes around this big playfield, and you might get to flip it a week later, So here it comes. Oh, God. All right, here we go. Anyway, there was that, and there was also just the normal weakness, the normal pinball machines, the shot's good there. After you widen it out, that shot is now, it's way out here, and it's harder to get the energy and the power and the accuracy to get up there. And I didn't really enjoy that. I didn't love it. And anyway, I tried to make them the best I could, but and my life wasn't over making wide-body pinball machines. So the next one is Stellar Wars. Stellar Wars was, I made Flash, and it broke records there.
This is at Williams, so he's moved on to Williams.
Yeah, I'm back at Williams. I got an offer in 1978 to go work at Williams, so I went, and there's a real pinball company, oh my God, with real mechanical engineers and people that had eons of experience, and I learned so much from them, and a real production line. Wow, what a different life. And at that time, Williams was a manufacturing company, and the difference is now we buy ball guides, we buy wires, we buy a lot of stuff made from the outside. Williams didn't do any of that. Some molded parts, not much. You want ball guides? They had these big rolls of stainless steel, 1.1 inches high, and they had 4 spot welder guys putting those tabs on there, putting everything on by hand, which was really cool if you wanted to make a change, It was quick.
Yeah.
I could make a ball guide correctly, in an hour, with their help. There's also a machinist there named Jack Sakai, and he taught me a lot about metals and plastics and all this other stuff. I went to school with him. He was like an awesome guy, and anyway, Williams was great, and I made Flash, and it's the only game I ever did a cocktail napkin drawing for. I never did that again. I can't do it now. I don't want to. I don't know. But I had all these ideas, and I wanted flash lamps because, okay, well, it's only 12 volts. Yeah, well, 12 volts in the car, too. Look at how bright that brake light is. I want that. So we worked on that, and it took a long time to refine them. So Flash had flash lamps, and it had another interesting feature that Eugene and I came with, Eugene Jarvis, who he became a great, he was a great software guy from the very beginning and a great gamer guy, and it was fun. So much, we used to talk for hours about games, and we still do when we get a chance. Anyway,
So you and Eugene you talking about the sound?
Yeah,
Sound
I
thing?
brought in, I was a guitar player in the bands and stuff, and I had an Echoplex. And all I did was connect it up. It was an echo machine. It had a tape and a movable head, so I could change the delay. And we just put that in the game with all the sounds that Superman made. And the guys came down from the office, and they go, "What are you doing?" And we were just trying stuff out. Feels kind of good. I don't know. It's kind of fun to have constant sound. And they said no, so I did it at Williams.
Yeah, and if you
Eugene
were here
did-
last hour, you heard how historic that was, that Flash had sound that was not correlated with achieving something in the game. It was just there to make you more nervous and tense.
It went progressively up in pitch. And you knew when a good player was there because it was going really high pitch. So it was kind of a cool thing. And I don't know. I think in arcades, I don't know how much that happens now, but I think people like to express, "See, I did that. I made that happen," and that's a cool thing to to sell if you can, right? So anyway, it was a fun game, and they thought, well, it sold like 19,000, just short of 20,000. I go, "Can we get over 20,000?" And Jack Middle, the guy that was in charge then of the sales, he goes, "We want to leave the market wanting." Okay, all right. Anyway, so they thought, okay, we're going to put Steve Ritchie on a 9-month plan to make a wide body game. Okay, I said, yeah, all right. So I started on Stellar Wars. We can't have Star Wars, but Stellar Wars is okay, I guess. Anyway, I laid out the game, and it was like, there's some drawings here. Right? I laid out this game, and it was like, it just didn't play well at all. I hated it. I still hate the game. That's my worst. I hate this game worse than any other game that I ever made. Anyway, there's other games I hate too, but this one was like, oh man, not another one. And I'm having to look. I already had the experience of making a normal pinball machine, 20 1/4 inches wide. And that was so fun to have those shots and everything. It allowed me to be a smooth designer, somebody who made something that you could, continue shots through. You make this shot, you get another one. The upper right flipper was important. It's like that. That influence came from Captain Fantastic, which I have in my basement right now. And I look at it, and all it was really good for was knocking down the 5-bank, which is cool.
Which is a crosswise shot.
Right, across. But I wanted to go up and around so you could loop and do it, a number of times. And then the flash lamp thing happened, and we sold this box about this big with xenon flash tubes, and they were on top of flash. I bet no one has one. I think we made 3,000 or 4,000. I haven't seen one since the day. And when we took it to the show, those lights, the big ones up in the air, lit up the whole place. It was like, whoa! And so really when you played the game, you didn't get that kind of action unless you bought the box.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of white space on this.
Yeah, it's white space, and it's like, it's a mess. It just, and the artwork was horrible. The artwork, the guy didn't even understand perspective, but I'm not going to go into it. He also did Firepower, and that was better.
Was it Connie Mitchell?
Yeah, I didn't want to say his name, but you did,
Yeah.
so.
All right.
Anyway, the game, I came in one day. Everybody knew in engineering that I hated it, and I tried to rework it. I did a bunch of other. This is an early version. Can we have the next slide? We're looking for the one that begins with P, my dear. I came in one day, and on all the drop targets, somebody put tape that said "pigs in space" on all of them, and it's like that was like the last straw. I picked up the whole thing and threw it in the dumpster and started over, and had a lot of trouble with the programmer. The programmer that originally programmed Flash. I don't know what he was up to, but he started on this game, and he ended up leaving in a big huff with Mike Stroll, the president, in the room, and he said, "You're all trash." Well, thanks. Thanks, Randy. Anyway, he left, and I got Paul DeSalt, who did a very nice job on the code. And anyway,
What's this big round thing in Stellar Wars?
the big round thing was supposed to be like, like a radar screen, but I couldn't. We didn't have the money to do it, or the time. I mean, they wanted it out in 9 months, so we put it out, and by some miracle or stupidity, we sell 7,000 machines. I don't know why. Does anybody own a Stellar Wars? Oh, there's one. Anyway, so that's that story. And after that, I did a whole string of narrow body games, and I was very happy with that. But then, basically, we came up with a version that was, in between Super Pin, and Pat did what? Wasn't Twilight Zone on that?
Yeah.
We always used to joke with each other, just telling you, if we wanted to get on Pat's nerves, we would call his game Toilet Zone. Rude. They called High Speed, High Cost. Everybody had nasty names for everybody else's games. And anyway, that width was at least semi-appealing to me because I could see that I could work with it. And we made Star Trek: The Next Generation on that format. And so many good people on this game. What happened on this game is impossible. The first thing that happened is we go down to Paramount Studios and we meet with these people, and there's like 3 ladies in charge of licensing. They gave us a small tour of the place, and we met a lot of the principals. Michael Okuda, I'm thinking, something Curry. I forgot his first name, but what was it?
Dan.
Yes. Anyway, we met those guys. It was really fun. And Westmore, I forgot his first name, but he had to do the masks and everything, and he only got a week to do it, and that was it. Any characters, he had to make them all up that fast in a week, and he was magic. And his son helped him. Anyway, we get there, and we're talking about it, and we're in the commissary, and right behind me is sitting Patrick Stewart. And the rule is, if you go to Paramount, you can't talk to the stars unless they talk to you. Well, he was talking to his manager, and I heard those pipes. God, he has such a voice. It blew my mind. Anyway, it's like we're sitting there talking, and the ladies bring this up. We don't want any violence. We don't want you to fire photon torpedoes or phasers. We don't want any of that. My jaw dropped. It's like, okay, I don't know if you know this, but I was born knowing the prime directive. I was. Okay. And it didn't matter. They weren't going to go there, and eventually I just said, look, I can't make an inauthentic game, and it's like, I can't make a namby-pamby version. I'm just not going to do that. And with that, who was there? Roger Sharp, Greg Ferris, Doug Watson, and me, I think. That was it. And we packed it up, got on the plane, went home. A couple weeks later, a guy calls Roger, and he goes, what can we do about this? How can we get this together? Come back down. So we all went back out, and there was this one lady, her name was Susie Dominic, and they were totally committed to making, a Star Trek game that was true to the mythos. It's like it was crazy to think that anybody would want to do that, or just nuts. Anyway, she was in charge. She gave us everything we wanted. Unbelievable. Also a great person. It's like everybody in the cast was pulled into the game. This is never, ever going to happen again. Everyone. And John Delancey is Q. It was an amazing thing that they let us do that. I wish I could have that opportunity again, but it won't happen. Anyway, the game turned out great. We had such fun with it. Dan Forden creating music and speech and doing the recording. I recorded some speech for Patrick Stewart to say, and I started on the space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. And then I screwed up the next line. And it was on the recording. And Patrick Stewart heard it, and he goes, oh, a grave error. It was. I was ashamed of myself for not knowing or just saying it wrong. Anyway, he added so many things to the game, exactly like the captain would say it, He was awesome, just awesome. And they all were. Jonathan Frakes didn't do much. Number one, he didn't take it seriously. We tried to get there's very little of his speech because it was trash. You got the feeling like, I'm here because I have to be. Oh God, it's lunchtime. Bye. That's how we felt about it. But making the game was tremendous. We would all sit around a table and build scenarios, around how they could talk to each other, what they could say, and I don't know. It was an incredible opportunity, definitely.
How
awesome
about
game.
The sculpting was that fun too?
Say that.
The sculpting for the
Sculpting, yeah. I mean, I don't know. They pulled out all the stops to do it. They really did. Here's an interesting thing. The Borg ship in the back, they said, this is going to be the Borg ship that we're going to use in all the episodes. And it wasn't a cube. It was this weird trapezoidal thing with kind of a pyramid top and a big, like the West Wing. I don't know what you'd call it. Anyway, and they never used it again. So it's never. Went back to cube Borg ships. And but somebody made a Borg ship you could replace it with, which was kind of cool. But again, excursions was what it was about, and this game didn't have so many excursions. The ball came back to you quickly, and having the cannons on the game and everything, you always had a ball on the play field, and some of the shots were just direct and quick, and I don't know, it was a lot of fun to make, no doubt. Maybe my favorite game. People ask me that, okay, this is it. Star Trek Next Gen. Anyway, the difference between wide bodies and narrow bodies is like night and day for me, anyway. I don't know anybody that really loved making them. Like I talked to Greg Kamick before, and
yeah.
Who else? Who else made them at Bally? I'm trying to remember.
I think Greg did the two.
Yeah, I think so
that
too.
we all know,
Yeah.
Future Spy and Paragon.
And actually, great games. I didn't hate them, but still, Excursion City. Right, the ball goes out, it takes off. I don't know.
Yeah, and 8 out lanes, or gates can move to cut it down to 6 out lanes, or
Yes.
whatever it is.
Right. So that's what I have to say about wide bodies versus narrow, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Oh, could anyone here possibly have any questions? Now you can either go to the mic there, or hey, Mr. Guarnieri from New Jersey has a question.
Did you work with Steve Jobs?
Did you
I
work
worked
with Steve
Jobs. He stunk. He never took a shower. He worked with Steve Wozniak. They were working on Breakout, like 50 feet from where Eugene and I were developing Superman. And the game was cool. I thought maybe they invented it, but they didn't. Al Alcorn, the head of engineering, designed it, created the game, and
Well, even so, Breakout was an adaptation of Clean Sweep from Ramtech, which
Yeah.
is the first play the bottom to knock off all the,
I have to say, I never saw that.
yeah.
I never saw Ramtech. I knew of their games.
Well, here in the Northeast, Ramtech was one of the really important,
That's
at
why
the
you know about
distribution
them.
level.
That's
yeah.
exactly why.
They were based in California, but their distribution here was
Yeah.
strong and really pushed. They made the best quality imaging on the paddle and ball games, and then
Yeah.
they turned that into Clean Sweep.
Anyway, the pictures you see of Steve Jobs sitting in his chair with his feet kicked up, that's how he was all day. He didn't do jack. He told Steve Wozniak what to do, and Steve Wozniak is the nicest guy in the world. When Steve Jobs wasn't there, we'd go, hey, can we play the prototype? And he'd say, sure. You know, we could play it for an hour. He didn't care because he was writing code or making hardware. I did not like him at all. Every morning I would say good morning to Steve Jobs, and he would say nothing back, and walk past the stench and be thankful there's good fresh air on the other side. And then I never bought any Apple stuff. I do not own Apple stuff. Apple, nothing. No phone, no nothing. Because, I don't know, it just, and he is proof. Well, first of all, he never owned up to having a daughter. He didn't love her. He bailed on his wife. He did terrible things. He had no furniture in his house and expected them to live there at some point, and I don't know. Mass firings at Apple, just terrible things. And I got to say, he was a thief. There was somebody from Microsoft made the first mouse, not Steve Jobs, and so many things were like that. He was kind of a thief. He'd find this guy who loved to make things that are white. He sucked him up and made him design it and then took all the credit for it. So I got nothing for Steve Jobs.
Yeah. And
Bill Gates didn't make
Yeah.
DOS, he stole that too.
right?
What
Yeah.
did he say?
Bill Gates did not make DOS and
He didn't make DOS?
the operating system.
Yeah.
And even the mouse, that mouse was originally prototyped at Xerox Palo Alto.
Right.
Yeah.
Some other guy did it. I didn't know his name. I didn't know
Yeah.
all the facts.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's that. And that man back there has a question.
What did you think of your brother Mark's effort on Indiana Jones?
Pile of junk.
Hey, suddenly he can hear very well. How about that?
If he was here, he would laugh too. It's not a pile of junk. It was a great game, no question. I loved it. He was making that before I was making Next Gen. So once in a while, I would go in his room and I would go, da 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 da. And then he would come in my room and go, da 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 da. Some terrible things. Just
Yeah.
having fun. Got to have a sense of humor. Yes, sir.
What made you think of MagnaSaves?
MagnaSave.
What made me think of it?
Yeah, what made you think of it?
Necessity is the mother of invention. I just wanted to make the ball, give a chance for a player to save a ball with skill, and worked out pretty good. At first we were burning play fields till we got the magnet thing down. It's like because we wanted to grab it quickly, and there was no exposed armature. When you have a piece of metal that's an exposed armature, it's much stronger than going through 1/8 of an inch of plywood. So we had to crank up the power. If you hit the button, it would definitely come on strong, but then begin to taper off immediately, just to the point of holding it. And by the way, the magic of playing it is to rock the game this way, back and forth, because the ball's going like this. If you make it go that way, it goes down the lane and goes to the flipper. I don't know. It's a fun
I
thing.
love it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I had heard that High Speed was semi-autobiographical.
Oh, the time. You want to tell the high-speed story
Okay, I'll tell a
again?
short version. Okay, I formed a video game company in California called King Video Design. King. Anyway, dumbass. My wife. I didn't make up the word king. Okay. I had a 928 Porsche, and it was a gorgeous car, and it It's very unlike a 911. It had an aluminum V8 up front and 50-50 handling right under your butt. And it was just an awesome car to drive. Anybody that drove it was a great driver. And no matter how fast you went, it was just super stable. And you know, I do things that other people don't do. I have a history of that. Sometimes it's hurt me. Anyway, I had the car for about a month, and my partner and I, in Loomis, California, near Sacramento, left to go buy electronic parts in San Jose, because that's where all the parts were. So I got in the car, and he did too, and I go, dude, I want to try this out. So we got on I-5, and there was like nothing but tomato trucks. There was 5 lanes, okay, in each direction. So in perfect weather, of course, and got in the car and opened it up. It went 146 miles an hour, but we could only tell with math because the speedometer only went up to 85. That's when the speed limits were 55. And it was a horrible time. I don't like low speeds. I like high speed. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the car was great. It handled perfect. It had new tires. And we go over a hill like this, and way out there, my partner goes, that's a highway patrolman. Okay, so I slow way down, and I'm going down the hill. He goes over the hill. I don't see him again. I take off. 146. Fast we could go for about maybe 20 miles. And in the Central Valley there's nothing on either side, and it's flat. You might as well be in Illinois. In the middle of Central Valley, you can't see the Sierras or the Cascades. There's no mountains visible because it's too far away. So there was no place to run. But anyway, the cop, I didn't know it, but he turned around and came after me. And the way I knew that I was in trouble was a sheriff's car with a red light, like a spotlight thing on the side of the car, came around this way and turned around in the median. The median was a bunch of bushes with a dirt track in the middle. So he turned around in that, and he followed me, and I pulled over. And at that point, as soon as I saw the red light, I wasn't going 146 anymore. I slowed down, and I pulled into this gravel place, and the cop gets out of the car, and he comes over to my car, and he goes, just wait here for a second. So we're waiting, and about 2 minutes later, the highway patrolman comes in. He's driving a Mustang, and it wasn't fast enough, though. His ticket said 120 plus. That's what it said on it. So anyway, he caught up. He does this big sliding thing in the gravel, big cloud of dust, jumps out of the car, runs over to my side, and tries to pull me out the window of the car. And I go, wait, officer, I'll just get out. And so I got out, and he throws me down the hood and puts handcuffs on me. And then he takes me over to his car, puts me in the passenger side with the handcuffs on and a seatbelt, okay? And the car now is behind me, so is my partner, and I can see in the mirror, though, what they're doing. And they're searching the car for anything and everything. I think they thought we were running from maybe a robbery or something. Excuse me. Anyway, we weren't, and, they frisked my partner and all this other stuff, and they were all standing around laughing at the 85 mile an hour speedometer. And it's like, okay. The cop gets back in the car, and he takes the handcuffs on me, and he goes, you want a cigarette? Sure, I'll have a cigarette. So he goes, why'd you do that? And I go, because I had the car for a long time, and I just wanted to try it out. I don't have access to a racetrack, so I-5 had to do. And it wasn't crowded at all. It was like sparsely driven. And I did slow down if we were near, other cars. And most of the time it was just empty. And so he goes, all right, I don't think you were running from me. And I goes, I wasn't. I didn't even know you were behind me. I thought you went over the hill and that's it. Goodbye. And so he goes, I'll help you in court. And we go to court, and the court's in session. And there's like a commissioner there. And 9 cop cars showed up to where my car was. Luckily, my partner was there to drive my car to the courthouse in Lodi, California. So we went into the courthouse, and the cop tried to help me. I don't think he was running. And the commissioner said, "Sir, why were you going so fast?" And I said, "I wanted to see how fast the car would go." And the audience, and the people in the courtroom had that exact reaction. So he said, "Are you ever going to do this again?" I lied and I said, "Never." And he goes, "All right, I'm going to let you go today. You could be thrown in jail." It's like, I said, "Thank you, Your Honor." He goes, "I'm going to fine you $250 and restricted driving for business only." And the car was a company car, so I could drive it all I wanted. And I got reckless driving on my record, though. That's catastrophic. So he let me go, and I went home. And about, a year later, I was gone from California, and the record did not transfer to Illinois, which was so cool. So that's that. What's that?
How did you do the math to know the 146?
So how'd you know it was 146?
By doing the math. You can look at the tachometer. Once you're in one gear and you see how fast you're going in that gear, you can project, okay, the next 5 miles an hour says this. That's how you project.
Right.
Plus, I was going full on, and you could, every Porsche you bought, 911 or whatever, would have a guarantee in the back that it would go at least 146 miles an hour. In the case of 911s, a different number. Less. They were faster. My last 911, I took Chris Grant on a ride in a very remote place in California. I'm not going to tell you where, but it's like 7 miles of this. You can see people coming, straight line, deer fences, 12-foot high fences on both sides. And we went 176 miles an hour. And he slugged me in the arm when it was over. But he wanted it. And he got it.
And how fast were the deer running away from you?
I don't know.
Okay.
Any questions?
Other driving tip questions?
One way back there.
I'm going to shout. So does this mean that the call out to dispatch, this is 504, suspect ran a red light over, is loosely based on a true
Can
story?
you make me recite that?
So,
I don't have a radio
Well-
here because that's what would make it authentic. Dispatch, this is 504. I don't remember the next line. What does it remind me?
suspect ran a...
Suspect got away. The other guy, he got away. Yeah, Joe Dillon. I don't know if you guys know who he was, but he was a very famous
Yeah,
vice president of Williams, a sales guy.
he came from here. He was sales
Yeah,
guy. He was
he was.
my
He was.
salesman when
He
I was
did-
an operator.
He did the other voice, and it was just fun. It was something we could
He
do
what?
together.
He what?
I always enjoy doing voice for games. It's fun. I don't know. I enjoy it.
Questions?
Yes, sir.
Why were the drop targets cut from Firepower, and which version of the game do you feel is truest to your design?
Now, I'll tell you. The drop targets at Williams that time were garbage. They had horseshoe contacts that rode on printed circuit metal, okay, on a PC board, and they just didn't work well at all. I loved them. I thought, oh, cool. This is, I only made one other game with drop targets. I think it was Superman at the time. And so Firepower played great with the drop targets, but they also broke a lot. And the president came to see me, Mike Stroll. He was a great guy and, charismatic. I don't know. He was just a great president of a game company, no doubt. He let us do what we needed to do to make games that sell. That's it right there. Sometimes you get management that just looking at money too much, maybe not looking at, what should go in a game to make it fun and sell, And so, sometimes that backfires. It has many times, actually. It's like, he told me, these targets are so bad that you're not going to sell as many games. And I know you like royalties. And as a matter of fact, I did. So I said, all right, I'll put on stand-ups. And I did. It was a smart move. I'm like, what? I don't know how old I am. I'm 26 or 27 maybe. And you don't know everything at 26 or 27. You don't even know everything at 43 or 75. So I learned.
Neil, you have a
Yes,
question?
sir.
You mentioned guitar and being in bands. I've heard that you came up with the music for Black Knight 2000.
I did. I wrote the tune, but it didn't have a bass line, and it was, it was all guitar work. I just, I played the song, but I did the whole thing, including, all the parts and some leads, and Dan Forden helped out, and then Brian Schmidt, this guy, he wrote the bass line and changed everything. It was really awesome, and I loved it. And I don't know, the song evolved into a singing thing. When I wrote it, I didn't have the words, but once we got the game together, it was like, and I sang on the game, Dan Forden and two ladies. And what I loved about that was when that played in the arcade, no matter what was going on, you could hear it. You could hear that singing. It was just like a pitch that was awesome. I had one other experience on Star Trek at Stern. There was a weird sound when you got a bonus multiplier up there. It was a boo, 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 boo. I don't know what it was, but you could hear that all over the arcade also. And I don't know, those kinds of sounds and things attract people, and that's what you want if you're a game designer, right?
Okay.
Any other questions?
Got a minute or two more, so last call. I'll ask the last one. Anything else about working on Superman for Atari that stands out? Because you filled up the space pretty well on that one.
Oh, yeah. And it was like 4 Whitewoods, okay, because I didn't know what I was doing, but then I discovered what I wanted to do, and that whole feel. I think it was a new style of pinball machine, and there wasn't much of it there, but there was some, and then I continued on that same track with my style.
Yeah, well, like the top lanes were very much like the top lanes on Flash, for example.
They were, but the curve that brought them around, that was the beginning of, say, I don't know, some geometry that I really liked and wanted to do whatever I could do.
Yeah. All right, well, we've...
I have one quick one,
Oh,
if I can.
yeah.
He's good. He's got 1
Quick.
minute.
I love F14. To me personally, it feels like a little bit like Black Knight 2.0, that upper play feel, but it's on the same level. You have the single pop, you have a couple, the threes, the targets, but they're not drops or stand-ups, a couple flippers, and it has that loop, the kind of the angle is almost the same, and I love that. It's like one of my favorite games ever.
I look at
Is
that
what you're
game.
thinking?
I have one. I look at my game and I wonder, where the hell did that even come from? It's like it's such a weird design that worked out.
Yeah.
It was like I don't know where it came from.
Maybe it's your favorite geometry is just
Yeah,
hidden in there somewhere.
I don't know. It was fun, banging targets at, with flippers at point blank range, kind of, and having to get all of them, and my nose was running.
All right, well, we've come to the end of our hour, and of course, Steve has millions more stories that he could tell
Millions.
in future events. But let's thank him for all the wonderful information we got today.
It's fun. It's always fun to come here. Thank you. Thank you. I do love Pintastic, I gotta say. It's a good show, and I don't know. Gabe does a good job. It's a whole different group of people, I mean, they're all over the place, and they're all a little different. Like Australian pinball players, they like to get cops to throw me down on a high-speed glass and put handcuffs on me while I'm playing the game. They're nuts. Anyway, thank you very much.